channel. Before we get started, click that like button, turn on notifications, give all a huge thumbs up.
Good day, friends. My name is Ina Irby and I'm a mom, and I thought I'd share something that was helpful to me. I wrote down a few things because I am on my 311th day out and I haven't gotten zapped yet. Yay! Just wanted to share that I am doing well and the family is doing well. I am going through the book just like you are, so I'm learning a lot. I went to my first Al-Anon meeting and I got thrown out because I went to an alcoholics meeting instead of an Al-Anon meeting. So then I got turned away, which is fine. It's okay. I got there one time. I was glad that I did that before COVID hit. Here, let me put my timer on so I don't take too much of your time. There we go. And it was interesting. I enjoyed that. I'm grateful that I just went. So to actually have had an Al-Anon meeting, I haven't. I think the times that I did go on, it was with my dad, and he would always sneak me in to all the alcoholic meetings, and he'd just say, "Shh, don't say anything. Just get me in," and we both sit down. And I think I only went to like 3. And I never went to an Al-Anon meeting because I was about probably 19 at the time, 18 or 19. And he just wanted somebody to go with him. And I did. It was a good experience. I remember holding hands and doing the prayer, the serenity prayer. There we go, the serenity prayer. And it was really, he was amazed that I even did it because I guess my mother had gone and she wouldn't hold anybody's hand, and she was deeply offended because it wasn't God, it wasn't the God that she knows. And I didn't have a problem with it, and he was pretty amazed at that. And he's like, you held their hands. I said, sure, it doesn't bother me. And I'm pretty sure, of course, as Jehovah's Witnesses, if you're deeply devout, that would be a no-no. And I was baptized, but early on. It was early on in my baptism, after my baptism. So I wasn't like, it didn't bother me. I'm realizing I did develop a lot of bad habits. I didn't do a lot of critical thinking. So I'm slowly stripping my thoughts and what my beliefs, and that's very difficult. I know that some people just don't want to change, and that's okay. I'm realizing that some people just don't want to change, or they go back to old ways of thinking. And I'm having to realize that I have to kind of distance myself from that in order for me to grow. And that's okay. I'm learning that with time. You can still have an opinion as a person. You just don't always have to agree with it. And I think as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you can even have an opinion. So that's what I'm learning too, that you can have an opinion and you don't have to agree. You don't have to voice it loudly. You can just quietly disagree. You don't have to make a big issue out of it. And I think too, Jehovah's Witnesses, the name of the game for Jehovah's Witnesses when you go to a door is to change that person behind the door. And that mentality is not my mentality anymore. I don't feel like I need to change anybody. I could just leave them the way they are. If they don't want to change, that's fine. And I can just accept that. That wasn't something that you're taught as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Accepting things is not taught. you can't have anything to do with them, with individuals. I go through Courage to Change. I like, my favorite psychologist right now is Dr. Mate. And I like him because he explains self-medication and how it's not so much a disease as much as it's based on trauma, and trauma that's happened for generations. And that made sense to me because I look at my family and my father's family and how much trauma my dad went through. So, and why he stayed in a very dysfunctional marriage and why he stayed in a very dysfunctional corporation. And so when I listen to Dr. Mate, it resonates with me. And even though I read this book, I don't believe that people can't change. I think you can fall off the wagon from time to time, and that's what I saw my dad do. When he was out of the organization for 15 years, he did so much better than when he went back in. When he went back in, his mentality changed, and it was really difficult for him to get help because Jehovah's Witnesses don't see a 12-step program as being something important. And he needed love, and that wasn't given to my dad. It had stipulations. You could stay here and we could love you, but you can't have problems. You can't have problems. And that was really hard for my dad. So, because he needed a lot of love in the process of his going through getting better from alcoholism, and he needed unconditional love, and that's not something you have in the corporation, in the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, because it is a secret society. I was watching Winston and he was explaining that, and it's true. I mean, it's very, very tight knit, and if you don't fit that particular belief system, if you don't fit that belief system, you're out. Because my father was an independent thinker, it was hard for him to be accepted even in the family. So our immediate family never really accepted my father, and that included me. I didn't understand him. I didn't understand, and I couldn't really, I wasn't able to. I wasn't allowed to understand. And that just made him spiral into another deep depression. And so, yeah, I want to encourage you. I think it's a lot of information. There's so much information out there. I was listening to another seminar and for my homeschool group, and one of the speakers brought out that so according to that speaker, information changes every 12 hours. And it can be a lot of information. So I narrowed down a couple of links to different sites that you can find factual information quickly. There's a lot of content everywhere, and I'm sure I'm part of it, so, but it was, I think you're drawn to certain people because you resonate with them. Everybody has like this little, everyone has a different tone, and I felt like I was drawn to certain people at certain times, at certain periods of time in my process of eliminating this corporation out of my life and this secret society. It's a secret society. You're not accepted until you are in. And then after that, you have to go by the rules. And you lose family members that way. I found books that were not so much related to apostasy, but books that were related to people in similar situations as Jehovah's Witnesses, because they had to change they had to change their perspective. They had to change their thinking, and they were abused, but they didn't even know it. I used to always tell my girls, and I still do, listen to your ping, listen to your ping. And I got this book, Bend Not Break, and her name was Ping Fu. And she is the founder and CEO of Geomagic. She lived in Mao's China. And so they had the culture there was very demanding on the way that they thought and the thought process. And so this book helped a lot. And I read it to my girls. And then of course, I love this book. This is Frederick Douglass. And when I saw My Bondage and My Freedom, I mean, it couldn't have a better title. I love this book too. So I still haven't finished it all because I keep going back and regurgitating the information because it's just so good. It's so, it hit home. And I like that it didn't have anything to do with Jehovah's Witnesses. It had a real human touch to it. And that helped me. It helped me in my process. So sometimes it's a matter of getting literature, right? Literature that doesn't have anything to do with Jehovah's Witnesses, and you can see it and you can see yourself in it. And you don't even realize, wow, that's what I'm going through, or wow, that's what happened to us and as a family. The similarities when it came to pulling families apart are very similar to how Jehovah's Witnesses, the corporation, will pull your families apart. So I hope this helps you on your healing journey. I had a speaker when I was listening last week, and she said, you know, if you have something to say, somebody out there needs to hear it. So maybe it's not me, right? You don't identify with me. But if you're out there and you hear this and you feel the need to say something about what you're going through, do it. Do it. It will resonate with somebody. Someone needs to hear you. It might be a whisper, but all our whispers together turn into voices, and our voices turn into screams, and hopefully other people will hear it. Other people in the government that will hear we want change. We want children to be protected. We want children to be protected in our communities. When I found out that Jehovah's Witnesses in other parts of the world had the same experience as my family, it was eye-opening, and I couldn't even believe that someone else was going through the same thing. But if they hadn't said anything, if they hadn't had the courage to do it and say it, I would never have known. Barbara Anderson, I'm so grateful to that woman. She was courageous enough to say something, and she didn't let what was the backlash that was going to happen to her stop her from doing what was right. So I want to be on the right side of humanity. I don't want to look back and say I didn't do the right thing. So your whispers mean something. Make sure if you feel the need to say something, do it. Do it. We need to hear. Someone needs to hear. 311 days I have been out. I have not gone to one meeting, one circuit assembly, one district convention. I don't even look at the Zoom meetings because they're just too crazy, and I don't want to hear any of that stuff anyway. I want clarity, and so it's been really wonderful. 311 days out. I get to take care of myself. Wow, it feels good. So healing healthy thoughts to all of you, and follow your bliss. Be good humans.